Guys, it is Tyson Trainer here, back with another video, and today, of course, as always, it is sports talk. So in today's topic, we're going to be covering nutrient timing or meal timing. Now, this is again something that we want to be focused on later in towards our progress as we go up the pyramid, I guess you would say. I would actually probably say, after I've talked about everything in regards to the last videos, I was thinking about between supplementation and meal timing. I'd probably say supplements first and then this at the end of the day, because this is where the kind of nitty gritty gets into it. Right? So you've been nailing your macros, you've been nailing your micros, you've got your supplements, you've got all that in place. So kind of how do we now optimize everything we eat in a day to ensure that it's working best for us in regards to performance, right? Now, the first thing is based on what you're actually going to be doing exercise-wise, okay? So something more intense, the higher the intensity, as in if you're doing sprints, I would say weight training. You're doing, something that's in a short distance that's going to require a lot of, hard, fast effort. You're going to want some carbohydrates to fuel that performance. All right. So pre-workout carbohydrates is going to be pretty important for this in order to give you the fuel you need to perform at your best. So having full muscle glycogen stores and having carbohydrates in the bloodstream, which you'd always have a little bit of, but having more in your digestion before you work out is going to ensure you're ready to perform at your best. Studies have shown that full muscle glycogen and also making sure you're having pre-race carbohydrates, I guess you would say, is going to help you improve your performance overall. So then when it comes to that, talking about the pre-workout first, pre-workout timing is going to be based on how close to your workout you eat, all right? If you're going to eat within 90 minutes, you want to choose something by itself that's quick acting in the stomach and going to be easily digested. So it'd be something like a banana or a bagel or crumpets with honey. Anything that's rice cakes, anything that's very easy, simple carbohydrates is basically what I'm trying to say here. A little bit of cereal, something that's just pure sugar, basically, easy to digest and will get straight into your bloodstream, This is going to be the best thing for you, the fast high GI, glycemic index, carbohydrates, I had a mind blank there. The high GI stuff is going to be best for these pre-workouts. You want to have it on its own and you have it within about 90 minutes-ish. If you're going to be eating further away, 2 or 3 hours beforehand, this is where we're going to make sure that we want to have a mixed meal. So we want to have our protein, we want to have our carbohydrates, high GI or low GI in this meal, doesn't matter, and we want to have some veggies, so some fiber in this. Because what we're trying to do is slow down the digestion before our workout, so that way we have nutrients and carbohydrates still being digested as we go into the routine, So let's say you're going to work out at 9 a.m. and it's 6:30 now, so you eat a meal and it's oats with protein powder, peanut butter, and just that's it, oats, protein powder, peanut butter. So you got your protein, you got slowly digesting carbohydrates, you got peanut butter for fat. That meal is slowly going to break down in your system over time and is going to give you the fuel you need for your workout, right? But on the other hand, let's say you wake up and you got to work out in an hour, you grab a quick banana or something on the way and you're good to go. That's going to be the best way to do it. That's the first thing. So pre-workout carbohydrates are going to be important for most of the time if it's more intense. There is caveats here regarding fasted cardio. We'll cover that in another topic, but today we're talking about the timing strategy. So that'll be your first thing, pre-workout. Post-workout, after any activity you do, you want to ensure you get protein in after that workout. Ideally, you want to get it as close to the workout as you can. There's not this anabolic window of just 60 minutes. It goes a lot longer than that. However, the closer we have it to the workout, just the more beneficial it's going to be. So you don't have to scull a protein shake as soon as you finish your workout or whatever it is. If it's going to take you 15 to 20 minutes to go home and then have something to eat, it's going to be okay. If, on the other hand, you worked out, then you're going to go to work and you're not going to eat anything until 11, 12 a.m. and you worked out at 9 a.m., then that's going to be, you're not going to get the training adaptations, you're not going to get the muscle recovery as well as it is, and you're not going to get the high response of muscle protein synthesis, which is something that's very important. So try and keep that meal as close to a workout as you can. The closer, the better, right? Now, in saying this again, if you have eaten a meal just before your workout, like carbohydrate source, you still want to be able to have your carbohydrates after if you're not trying to diet. So if dieting comes into play, carbohydrates won't be as important after that meal. Still having the protein itself will help spike muscle protein synthesis. But if you have the extra calories, making sure you have post-workout carbohydrates too, right? The post-workout, the meal timing in regards to that and what you're going to have, protein is always going to be essential. You want to get at least 20 to 30 grams of protein in that meal. Now, the carbohydrate side of things, we hear always, should you not. Carbohydrates aren't going to make a huge difference, okay? They are going to increase muscle protein synthesis by a little bit more, but it's not statistically significant. And also in regards to saying that, it doesn't depend on your calories, you know? You don't want to have a high glycemic carbohydrate with protein after a workout, let's say protein shake and cereal, but then that's taken away your calories for the rest of the day because you're trying to diet. So what is very important here is knowing what stage of your dieting phase you're in. Do you have the extra calories to use for it, or do you not? Because if you not, have the protein. If you do, have something with carbohydrates too. So just based on where you are. So there we go, pre and post workout timing. Basically, any activity you're going to be doing, having something beforehand is going to be beneficial, and having something after is going to be beneficial, okay? So now we're going to look at our other meals. Ideally, you want to eat at least 4 times a day, 4 to 6 times a day based on your preferences. I eat 4 times a day because I like bigger meals. Other people eat 6 times a day. With these meals, we want to make sure we're at least getting 25 grams of protein per meal to spike muscle protein synthesis, okay? And muscle protein synthesis basically means it's just muscle building. And what we need from that is at least 25 grams of protein in a meal to switch the muscle building on. So the reason though, we have this 25 grams and then it's going to drop back down. So muscle build, slowly breaking down. This is just the trend that it goes. Then we want to build again, then we want to go down. So we want to have like a wave-like pattern during the day of protein synthesis and protein breakdown to ideally we're going to have more synthesis than we are breakdown to help slowly build some muscle mass and recover from your workout and have training adaptations. All these things are going to be important for that. So making sure, again, you are trying to get at least 25 grams of protein a day, per meal, and this is going to be based on your body weight. So if you're like someone like me who's 90 kilos, I eat 200 grams a day, I just have 50 grams of protein at each meal. It's a good chunk of protein in each meal. It helps me keep full. It will activate muscle protein synthesis definitely, and I've just evenly spread my protein out throughout the day. So it would be a good idea for you guys to do that. If you get your total protein you need for the day, spread it out over those 4 meals. Ideally, what you'd probably want to do is have a little bit more during your nighttime meal, just because that means we are going to have more in the bloodstream overnight when you're not eating for 8, 10 hours, whatever it's going to be. So like, again, I could do better and I could go 40, 40, 40, which will be 120, and then, oh no, that would be too little. So I could go 45, 45, 45, and then have 60 at dinner time, right? A little bit more. Just that way I'd be able to have just a higher chance of retaining muscle mass in my sleep. But again, I'm not dieting, so it's not going to be as much of an issue. Okay, so protein, making sure we're having that at each meal, minimum 25 grams. Pre and post workout carbohydrates, if you can have it, and then post workout nutrition being as close to you can within the workout. So, you know, the closer the better, and also making sure, again, that protein is going to be within 25 grams. And even if you're going to be eating more than 4 times a day, if you want to try and have more meals with 25 grams at least, you can absolutely do it, but it just becomes a little bit pedantic. So just don't fret if you feel like you have to have your protein at 25 grams for each meal. It's ideally between 4 to 6. So it's whatever's going to be most suitable for your lifestyle at the end of the day. Okay, so we've got pre-post workout timing. We've got splitting your protein out throughout the day. We want to keep our fats away from our workout. So with this post-workout carbohydrates, we want to make sure it's predominantly carbohydrates and protein, staying away from any fat sources, and also avoiding fiber. Because again, we want to spike this insulin. We want to make sure that we're activating muscle protein synthesis quickly, and we want those nutrients to be digested and pushed into the muscle so we can recover. And that's going to happen with basically pure protein and high glycemic carbohydrates. So avoid high fat foods in this area. Avoid fiber at this time. This is where we want to spread our fats and our fiber at other times of the day. And again, with the rest of the nutrient timing, it's not really going to matter for you too much. You obviously don't want to have a lot of fiber before your competition or race or workout, or if it's going to be either, because of digestion issues. So, you know, if it's going to be further away than 90 minutes, it's probably not going to be as much of an issue. If you had, like, you know, again, that oats in the morning, you probably have like 10 grams of fiber with the oats, the peanut butter, the protein powder, and the fruit. So let's say you have like 10 grams of fiber, but you're going to work out 2 to 3 hours later. It's going to be absolutely fine for your digestion. It shouldn't be too much of an issue. And everyone's going to be a little bit different. So play around with, you know, obviously you've got fiber goals to hit, you've got your veggies to hit, you've got your minimum fat intake to hit. So you want to spread these out basically over your other meals that aren't going to be within that post-workout period. So what I do personally is I'll wake up in the morning, have a banana, go and work out, come back, then I'll have my This morning I had a protein shake with cereal, and then for the rest of my meals, this is where I'm going to make sure I get my fiber in for the day, and I'm going to make sure I get my healthy fats and everything. So my 3 meals left for the day are going to be a little bit higher in fiber and my fat intake. My first snack, my banana, I don't count that as a meal. It's something very easy to have. I'm not going to count it as a meal itself. It's just a quick pre-workout snack, and you're kind of good to go from there. Cool? So that's basically what we really want to focus on. Very simple, very easy, nothing too technical there. I will be talking about during your training, nutrition and stuff like that, which will be coming up in the future, but I just kind of want to talk about that meal timing side of things, okay? Actually, you know what, while I'm here, let's just talk about the fasted cardio. So, if you are someone who is an athlete, who does aerobic exercise, running, cycling, swimming, all these things, you are going to benefit from certain times of training on an empty stomach. All right, and having lower carbohydrates at dinner. So this is called training low, sleep low, train low, basically. So you have a lower carbohydrate dinner, which means you haven't fully replenished your glycogen stores, probably not. Then overnight, you're going to be depleting your liver glycogen stores. So this way, you're going to be starting with obviously some glycogen in your muscles, but not as much as you usually would have, and you have no glycogen in your liver. So then if you don't eat before you go and train, you are teaching your body to be metabolically flexible, okay? To use its fat as a fuel source. Because your pre-workout, if you eat pre-workout, whatever that is going to be consistent of, whether it's higher fat or higher carbohydrates, is going to determine your fuel source for your training, okay? Intensity still does have a point, which I'll cover in another video, but with saying that, if you have a high fat meal, you use fat as your fuel source. If you have a high carbohydrate meal, you use high carbohydrates as your fuel source. Now, because you're an athlete, you're going to be having a lot of carbohydrates for a large majority of the time, so teaching your body to go without carbohydrates by doing your fasted cardio sessions in the morning. On my boxing days and my assault bike days, I don't eat anything beforehand. I drink water during my session only, no carbohydrates or no Powerade or anything. Then I'll make sure I have protein by itself after my cardio sessions. The reason for this is because you'll get good adaptations from this. You'll teach your body to use fat as a fuel source and carbohydrates as a fuel source, so it teaches it to be able to switch between the two. You become metabolically flexible, like I said, and you'll actually get better results from your performance by doing it this way. Because then when you give the body the carbohydrates it needs for race day, your body is going to be ready to rock and roll. It's going to be able to push it hard because now it's got the fuel it needs versus trying to convert fuel at a high intensity, like using fat at a higher intensity of exercise. It now has the carbohydrates to do that immediately. So you do get better training adaptations if you do sometimes train low. Again, based on your sport and what you do, it's always going to be different as to when you train high, when you train low. But for me, training low 3 days a week on my cardio days and then training high with carbohydrates on my weight training days is how I've balanced that. So it's also something you guys want to take into account too. I would definitely be looking into that, especially if you are an athlete and you want to be performing your best. Looking at metabolic flexibility and having training low days and things like that are going to be very beneficial. Cool bananas. I hope that was helpful. I hope that all made sense. As always, if you guys have any questions, make sure you ask. And not sure what I'll talk about in the next episode yet, but I'm sure it'll be something exciting. So I'll speak